For those just tuning in, I'm here with therapist extraordinaire and dope individual, the one and only Aisha Grevenberg. We're talking about manipulation versus communication, which is part 2 of our conversation. And in part 1, we talked about ultimatums, when to, when not to, and how they can go from 0 to 100 real quick. Don't forget to hit subscribe on your favorite social media platform, and any comments on the podcast, you can send to me directly at coachkenpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, Ken is spelled with 2 N's. Now,
ain't no lies being told here today. It's Relationship Unscripted with that dude, Coach Ken.
What I find interesting is, again, this phenomenon that people are just not satisfied with. They don't have the self-awareness to understand that there is something internal to me that I really need to address, because technically I'm not going to be good for myself, which means I'm not good for anybody else, because I don't even think I'm enough, but I'm going to search for something outwardly to tell me that I'm enough. And when they cease from telling me that I'm enough, then I have to go do something else. So I have to go from pulling up in the Lambo to pulling up in a helicopter. Something. I got to up the ante. These are folks in my mind that are seemingly void of something. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. And I'm glad that the way you described it is just exactly on point. And the idea is the Lambo is a car. It's just a car. If you like it, get it and enjoy it. But it doesn't change anything about who you are at all. It's a car that you like, drive it and enjoy it. But if you have the expectation that it's going to make you feel differently or make you be a different person, it's not going to do that. It's a car, enjoy it. And if women, you want to get all that, sis, get it. It's not going to change who you are. If you like the way it looks, do that. But that's not going to change anything about you or anything about your life. When we put it in its proper perspective, now I can challenge, what is it that you wanted that to do? You wanted that to make you feel a certain way, because it's not going to do that.
Okay. Now, I have several clients right now that I'm working with. Of the 4, one of them is now decided to be celibate. The other 3, late 20s, all in the other 2 are in their 30s, all virgins. So they find, and I'm tying this in because I know they listen to the podcast, so I want to make certain that I throw this out there, get your perspective on it. They are wondering, why is it so challenging for them to be their authentic selves and yet have to deal with this extremely lonely road of not being able to date because they don't do all the things that you have suggested. Can you talk to me about that? Because I know that they're listening and I know that they will appreciate any insight you can give on that. So if you have a young lady, she's saving herself for marriage, what do we say to her? Because she doesn't want to play the game. So what do we say to her?
Well, it's going to be lonely. That's what you say. It's a game. And once you decide to do it differently, you have to realize that not a lot of people have reached that point. And so you have to be willing to wait until you have something or you meet someone that is more consistent with what you want. And nobody wants to hear that. You think that because you do the work, there's going to be a line of dudes that look like Drake waiting for you because you do the work. And that's not life. That's not real life. You don't do it for that. You don't do the work for a relationship. The relationship is with you. So if you do the work and now you're like, now I'm ready for it. No. How do you feel about you? Do you feel better about yourself? You feel better about your life? Good. Go have breakfast.
I'm asking for a friend. Why Drake?
Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. I just like the sensitivity. And you get most when we love Drake. We love Drake. And he dropped a song. He said, how I'm supposed to wife you? You not Aisha enough. Do you know I was in the shower and my knees literally felt like water. I thought I caught the Holy Ghost. And I know he was talking about Steph Curry's wife, Aisha, right? But just to hear him say my name, I just almost fell. Jesus. Hold on. I wasn't prepared
Fair enough. Fair enough. Drake is the, in my mind, I say this respectfully, Drake is the Taylor Swift of rap, literally. Can't hate on the dude because success. So I'm like, okay, Drake, I get it. But hey, his audience is his audience. Again, I digress. So I'm asking for a friend.
Yes.
Drake rolled up on you, is going down, y'all dating. Would you up your ante? Would you do anything different? Would you just be you? Because he made a song about you.
This is the OG vibe that I'm on, right? This is the OG vibe that I'm on. I'm just interested in talking and listening. Mm-hmm. That's it. I just want to listen. I want to know more about people, but it's because I have everything that I need and I feel it. Mm-hmm. It's an internal feeling. It's not about anything external. It's this internal satisfaction that says, I'm comfortable. I have what I need in life. So I don't need to use people for anything. So I want to actually experience people who, like, let's have toast. Let's just sit and talk. Like, let's be people with each other. But as long as I'm looking at your shiny thing and you're looking at my shiny thing, you're not seeing me. So I want to know more. And so that's a different conversation. Like, am I going to have a good time partying? I sure am. But that type of interaction to me means so much more. It's rare. It doesn't happen often.
So other than the 120 selfies that you would be taking, you would nonetheless be just at some point like, all right, Drake, it was real. Appreciate the love.
Yeah.
Shot my name out again on, a couple of more records. We all good. And then you're going about your business. Okay. You know what? I respect that. And I think that is what people don't realize. And this is, again, what I hear you saying is that there is an attractiveness, regardless of it's male or female. There's an attractiveness with authenticity. When you have a plus size woman who's just confident with who she is, she can't hide behind, little in the waist and cute in the face. She can't hide behind that. So she's like, hey, this is who I am. Lizzo is a great example of that. Very confident with who she is, how she moves, so on and so forth. And if you don't rock with her, she's like, I'm good with that. It's whatever.
Yeah.
People don't realize that is more attractive than a lot of the things that people put on display. Would you agree with that?
I agree 100%. The conversations that you and I have are conversations that are not being had, right? And they get to this surface. Well, she needs to be submissive. Wait a minute. Don't you want to have peace in your life? Like, honest to God, don't you just want to have peace in your life? Don't you want to come home and be like, baby, guess what happened at work? And your woman be like, what they do? Tell me what they did. Tell me what they did, because I'm about to get my Vaseline. We ride. You know what I mean? Don't you want that? Right. Or do you want someone that's like on the phone when you come home? They taking selfies. They on Instagram. They don't even acknowledge you when you walk in your house. Is that what you want?
So is that a learned behavior? That sounds like a 20-something thing.
Is it 20-something or is it really like the person? Is it someone that isn't able to be present with you? Right? Think about it. Because it's a lot of 25-year-olds walk around here that could sit and have a conversation with you without looking at their phone 80 times. Like, do we really challenge each other about what it takes to have a good life? And it don't take a Lambo and it don't take a BBL. That's not what it takes to have a good life. You get you a good person you can negotiate with, you can talk to, you can listen to, and they're calm. They're not buffing up on you every time there's a problem. Y'all go get you a dog. You will have a couple kids. You live that's a good life. That's a good life. But you got to flex. You got to be on this social media. You got to be, that's not living. It's not living.
But do you mature to that point? Now, let me be clear. 20-somethings, my apologies. I wasn't trying to throw off on y'all. I'm just trying to understand, because I think that it's a learned behavior to say, you reach a certain age. Don't know what that age is. Let me be clear. But you reach a certain age where you understand you more. And then you learn to put the phone down. And then you learn to understand I don't have to have 1,000 pictures out there. And then you understand that they like my pictures, but they don't like me personally. Right. And then you understand that the reason I am on social media so much is that I'm looking for something external that's actually I need to fix internally. So you get to that certain age where all of that is not even a big deal for you. So that's the only reason I said 20-something. I think at that point, we normally, male or female, hadn't reached the point of understanding self.
we don't have a lot of examples either. We don't have a lot of people saying to us, this is what joy really feels like. This is what it feels like in the morning when you look at someone and they just smiling at you. They're like, good morning, baby. You know, your breath is hanging out and they love it anyway. Breath is hanging out. You understand what I'm saying? Hanging out. And they look at you and they just so happy. And you know that joy to roll over and you like, oh, baby, what's good? We're going to have a good day. That's a good life. You don't talk about that. We don't help people understand. Listen, this is what life is really about, because how many of us have got to that point where we've really experienced peace with another person, really, truly loved another person. And I think when people talk about, oh, my grandparents was together, woo, 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 they weren't happy. So if we don't prioritize that, then how can someone say that that's what they want? If what they see constantly is let's do this, let's buy this, consume that, you know, let's go get this. And but if they think that that's what life is about because that's all they see, then why wouldn't they aspire to that?
I do agree with that. I think that even in coaching, people will say at some point, I want a relationship like my mom and dad. I'm like, you only know 1/8 about your mother and father's relationship. A lot of what you don't know, they hid from you. It was pillow talk. It was out of earshot of the kids, hopefully, but you only seen a extremely small sample size of what your parents go through. So, and even if you knew a little bit more about them, regardless of how much you know, and for everybody listening to the podcast, this is very important. Whatever your parents or grandparents had worked for them.
Right.
It may completely blow your whole life up. So you can't just mirror everything that they've done. It's like, well, my grandfather had my grandmother at home and all they did was work. And so that's what my wife's going to do. No, sir. You better rethink it, because you and this person that are coming together are building something brand new that has never existed.
Right.
And although you can glean from these different relationships, regardless of where you're getting them from, I think it's a very dangerous thing when you start to mimic someone, because that's what works for them. That's going to work for us. And here's now what I need you to do. So-and-so's wife don't work, so I ain't going to work either. Okay, well, that might work for them because they sitting on 6 figures. We don't have it like that. But when you start mimicking other people's relationships versus authentically creating your own, I think that is a challenge. Now, that 5th phase is the understanding of commitment. What are we going to put a name? Are we going to put a name on it and all of this sort of stuff? And so in my mind, between the 4th and 5th phase is where the ultimatums are going to start to take place. The 6th phase is okay, we are an item, we're a couple, we're transitioning into one. This is where people get stuck, because it's not like, okay, we done did all the posturing and the whatnot. I've gotten the prize now, which is him or her. What do we do now? And now this is where people's authentic self start to show up, because now they're like, girl, he don't want to work. She don't want to work. She don't want to cook. And you're like, well, you used to cook all the time when we were trying to get together. And as you said, that was that avatar. That was that person's representative, who they wanted you to believe who they are. So all of that being said, what would you suggest people do to avoid running into somebody's representative, setting up a relationship with an avatar, to avoid establishing steps with somebody that doesn't really exist? How do I keep myself from dropping off into the fantasy versus the reality of person A?
That's an internal job. And typically when someone tells me that, I met this person, I felt butterflies, I'm like, that's the biggest red flag there is. That's not, you don't feel butterflies, you were triggered. So something about that person was triggering to you. Mm-hmm. And that's what you were feeling. That's the response that you were feeling. So when you really like somebody, and we grown people, when you really like somebody, you don't feel like that. You're like, oh, that's what's up. Like, it's not, ooh, it's not that. It's like, man, she cool. I can't wait to kick it with her again. It doesn't feel like that. That nervousness is not a good indication that you're seeing things clearly. And so the fantasy is your fantasy. You've created who you believe this person to be in your own mind. And that's who you're talking to and interacting with. Because if you like, oh, he got money, then that's the only thing that you experience this person as, is having money. So that's you created a fantasy that doesn't exist.
So are you suggesting we just have that straight out, just conversation? Because it sounds like before you even come across the club and holler at this young lady, or wherever it might work, before she go over and holler at this dude, you need to know who you are, because you said something very interesting a few moments ago. You were like, I have my home, my car, my career. You even got your own dog, shout out to Sage.
Yeah, Sage.
Okay. Shout out. So you've already got all of that. So you're not necessarily out here trying to secure a bag, because you have bags that other dudes probably could try to secure. You got your own stuff, in other words. But it's just a lot of young ladies, a lot of dudes that are just not in that situation. Bag chasing is a thing. Again, it's been going on forever, but it was unspoken. You just kind of low key chase the bag. Now they just flat out letting you know, I'm out here sack chasing. I'm trying to get it. Are you suggesting we have to know ourselves in order to have that authentic conversation with somebody and be willing to get up and walk away? I don't care how good he looked, how good she looked. I have to know myself enough to get up and say, you know what, peace be with you, because it is with me, and then bounce.
So here's the thing, right? If your requirement, and this is whatever your requirements are, then you can't get fascinated when someone has a requirement. So if you're a woman, we're talking about women that like men with money. If you only date men with money, if that's what makes you comfortable, then you can't be geeked up about someone that has a minimum requirement for you. So if you got a Lambo, but I date 10 dudes and they all got Lambos, so now I can say that that's what I like. Like, I feel comfortable with someone who is successful. I admire that. That's something that I look up to. I think is really honorable. You work hard, you make something happen, or I value that you're a business person. You own that. So that's what I value. So that's the only type of dudes I date. So now you don't get brownie points for meeting the minimum requirement. So now you can't be so excited and so reactive to someone having that. And now you can think clearly. Because if you're like, oh my gosh, she looks so good. Bro, every chick I date is a 10. So why am I going to get excited because of how you look when I don't date anyone that looks different? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Believe it or not.
Now I'm not so emotionally reactive to this. Mm-hmm. Now I can accept that's normal. And now you can say, okay, I'm only going to date someone that I find physically attractive. So the fact that I find you physically attractive, that's that. So tell me more about you. Tell me more about what you like and what you can do. Because we're so reactive to things that we're not seeing the person for what they are. We're reacting to that thing and just constantly responding to that and not saying, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. She gorgeous, but that's a dime a dozen.
Okay.
Oh, you got money? There's a lot of people that got money. It's a lot, right? I'm only dealing with people who got money. Now what? Now what? It's okay to like things. It's okay to be like, oh, I admire that in people. Okay, fine. But you have to understand that person is more than that. They're much more than that.
Okay, so Isha G, you got to help us out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to help us out. So it really sounds like you're suggesting we have to know ourselves before I can have this conversation with other people. There's a conversation I need to have with myself.
Absolutely. And this is the thing, right? And everybody can approach things their own way. But for me, the piece is knowing that I don't need to date myself. And I don't need to date my fear. And so if I'm fearful of money, then I'm going to chase someone with money and hold on to them like that. Then you're giving so much power to money. But if you say to yourself, this life is challenging, right? It's challenging. And I want someone that I can experience life with, that when my mom passes away, they right there with me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
When
Absolutely.
my nephew was born and, he getting upset with me and you understand and you right here with me and vice versa. And so that means that I have to be solid in here. And I have to understand that someone could love me and really care for me, but feel like something else is a better fit for them. And when you love someone, you understand that. I want you to be happy. In fact, I want everybody to be happy around me. I'm not trying to control you. I want you to want me. I want you to want to be with me. And if that's not something that you have or you want, that's fine. Because I'm going to get someone who wants that. And so this posturing and this control only gets you more posturing and more control. It's not going to get you what you want in life, which is a loving friendship where this person, whether y'all married or not, this person will take care of you. You got a problem, something wrong with my lock. I have people now that love me so much, they will come over right now and fix it. Same thing. Dated a dude, if he called me, told me he was sick right now, I go right there and help him out. You get to a point where you're like, this is a person. And if it doesn't work with us, it doesn't work, but this is still someone I care about.
Okay. So what I heard you just say is that, and I do agree, being in a relationship, and I think the peace that surpasses all understanding is something that a lot of people just forego that. And they don't understand how valuable peace is in your life, in your relationship. It is priceless.
Essential. Mm-hmm.
Those are tangibles that are absolutely not discussed in a relationship. And so the relationship is based upon who has what, who looks like what, where we live and how we move and all these different things. And those things are subject to just go away or at bare minimum become outdated, right? Yep. So somebody in 1992 pulling up in a 1992 Lambo, they doing big things. But you pull up in a 1992 Lambo in 2022, they're like, dude, that Lambo is 22 years. Respect that it's a Lambo, but it's different because it's now outdated. So what would you suggest as a therapist? And this will be my last question for you. What do you suggest from a therapy aspect, some of the things people that they can do to just get to that space of peace within themselves, because they can't give to somebody what they don't have themselves. So how do they arrive? How do we arrive at a space of peace and understanding and openness? So now that which is within us, we can now offer to somebody else in a relationship.
So the goal of my pursuit in my life, my clients, all of us, is to love and accept every part of ourselves, right? There are parts of my personality that are absolute trash, horrible.
I'm sorry, hold on, say that again.
Trash, bougie, judgy, stank attitude, curse you out, inflexible, rigid, angry, arrogant. All of these things, I have them. Everyone has parts of themselves that are that way. That's all true. Of them have parts of ourselves that where we've really been hurt and we haven't dealt with it. And you want it to go away. And so men think if I go make a lot of money, I'm gonna feel so much better. No, you're not. Sisters think, yo, I'm beautiful. I'm gonna get this weave. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put this line. I'm gonna feel better. No, you are not. No, you're not. That doesn't make you feel any differently. You feel differently when you step into who you really are, and you're all of those things all the time. And so once you can accept the different parts of you, then that's what peace is. When you can be like, you know what, somebody catch me on a bad day, they're going to catch each from Trenton, gold teeth. You understand what I'm saying? Or you might catch me and I'll be on my therapy vibe. We going to talk. You know what I mean? You catch me in the club, I'm jumping it. Come on. I'm allowed to be all those things, and so are you. And that's the beauty of it. That's the journey. That's healing. So you can be all of you, and then you can let someone else be all of them. You can be that little girl that was scared and frightful, and be that little boy who didn't know really what to do. But now you're a man, and that part of you still exists, and you can honor that. You don't have to change anything about who you are. No client I work with, I don't want you to change. There's nothing wrong with you. You ain't coming to me to change. I don't do that. I help you to be more of who you are.
Agreed. 100%.
That's the key. Ain't nothing wrong with y'all. Y'all are fine. You just got to be who you are.
And understand what that means.
And understand it and accept it. And there's a place for it. There's a place for that part of me. I could be too nice. And so that Jersey girl with them gold teeth really got to show up. Like, hold up, wait a minute. That part of me needs to show up, right? So the bite needs to be there.
So on behalf of everybody that's listening, we want to see the gold teeth, the Jordans. We want to see the whole Trenton flow. I want you to post that picture with the gold teeth, the rose-colored Jordans.
So I got my Jordans on my Instagram, on my business Instagram. I got my Jordans. I got my Air Force Ones on there. I haven't got my fronts yet on my bottoms. Now, when I have my bottom gold teeth in, I'm gonna wear them all the time. I'm gonna wear them in therapy and everything. That's what you're gonna get because that's me. If I feel like putting gold teeth in, I'm gonna put some gold teeth in my mouth. You're gonna get the same treatment, right or wrong.
Right.
Right.
You mentioned
Ain't no lies being told here today. It's Relationship Unscripted with that dude, Coach Ken.
Part 2. There's a part 3. In part 3, you just alluded to, which is an excellent segue. You were explaining to me dealing with that inner child.
You can't make this stuff up. It's the Relationship Unscripted podcast with Coach Ken.
You spoke about just a few minutes ago, you mentioned that little girl and that little boy, which is an excellent segue for all of you listening to the podcast. Again, this is part 2, a springboard from ultimatums to this, which is manipulation versus communication. There's a part 3, dealing with that inner child. So can you tease that out a little bit? We're going to do another podcast just to make certain everybody gets the full scope of this. But when you say that inner child, give us just a snippet of what you mean from the male and female aspect of that.
So all of us have this part of our psychological makeup, right? It's our authentic selves, who we really, really are. That inner child is when nobody was looking, what were you like as a kid? What were you like as a little boy? Did you like to read? Were you quiet? What did you really, really like? That's who you are. And what happens is we experience trauma. We experience changes in our environment. We experience the death of a parent that wasn't our fault. So we learn to cope and protect that inner child by doing different things to help us to survive. But all of those things prevent us from being who we are authentically. And so I have a little girl in me. Everyone has a part of them that is a child. And most of us don't mature past that child. And so it's a very real part of you, very real, and it's there. And until we can acknowledge that, then we can't have healthy relationships. Because if you don't take care of that child will run your life. All you got to do is look at hip hop. How old are these rappers? How old is the baby really emotionally? Real talk. Look at him and listen to him. Does he sound like he's about 12 years old or 15 years old? The type of things he's talking about? No impulse control, say whatever comes to his mind. Looks how he treats people. He gets upset, he acts. That's a 12-year-old. That's a 12-year-old.
Interesting. Okay. So again, we're going to be into part 3 here, and this is going to be dealing with that inner child. Yes. And I want to be very clear, that door swings both ways. And so I do agree, just so I don't want to end the podcast without people understanding. I do agree. And a lot of times in our relationship, the inner child tends to show up and doesn't feel protected, doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel it's getting nourished or what it needs. And so I think there is an opportunity for us to not only learn more about the inner child, but that inner child needs to know that you as an adult, you got this. And then the inner child can go ahead and sit down and have a seat. Mm-hmm. But that inner child in a lot of us is highly developed because this is all they know. I am going to protect me. And it is a very, very common thing in relationships. But that's part 3. We're going to talk about it. Aisha, let the people know again how they can get in touch with you, how they can follow you. I'm on TikTok following her. And again, always good content. But what is do you have one platform over another that you would like people to follow you on?
It doesn't matter. Most people are on Instagram. So it's at My Therapist Life on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So it's the same handle. You can email me at info@aishagrevenberg.com with any questions. A lot of times people have questions they don't feel comfortable, just like putting in a chat or anything like that. But I'm a real person. If you email me, I get back to you. So it's info@aishagrevenberg.com.
Awesome. So again, Kenologist, thank you again. Part 2. This is communication versus manipulation. Part 1, we talked about ultimatums. Part 3, we're going to be talking about the inner child. So until then, this is Coach Ken, and this is Relationship Unscripted.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from Relationship Unscripted, you can follow us on Instagram. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
told here today. It's Relationship Unscripted with that dude, Coach Ken.